Right, hi everyone. Welcome to another edition of 2N Cancer. I am Adam Benigni, a very special guest we have with us today, co-founder of one of the great and most impactful traditional fundraising events in Buffalo and Western New York, now the 11-day Power Play, Amy Lesakowski. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time. So good to have you here. And so much growth with this event. The 11-day Power Play, it's familiar to so many here in this region. Hockey, near and dear to so many hearts in Buffalo. And you've more than captured that and harnessed it in terms of fundraising. Take us back. Let's start at the beginning of this event, 2017.
Yeah.
How did it all come to fruition?
So it actually, in about 2012, we started talking about how we could give back to Roswell Park. Our family was part of fundraising, and hockey's been in our family. My son plays, his dad plays, and we're just a big hockey family, and Buffalo's a big hockey town. So when we saw the Harbor Center being built downtown, we would drive by as a family and say, that's where we're doing the next world record game, the longest hockey game ever to be played. And we'd talk about it as a family, kind of half serious, like, can we really do this someday? We're all busy, we're working, we've got small kids. And, the time came where we lost my kid's grandmother and my mother-in-law at the time. And, we decided this is time. I had been through cancer myself, and here another member of our family, let's do that world record game.
So this is personal for you. And we're going to get into that part of it because you were you benefited directly from so much of the research and progress that's being made here at Roswell Park. So I want to get into that. But in terms of the event itself, you started out world record game, 40 skaters, right?
We did.
Describe what that was like.
Well, we had about 23 of the 40 players that are required to finish this world record game through friends, family. But we had to open up it to the community. How are 40 men or women going to be able to take off 11 days of their life off of work from their family? Not everybody's able to do that. So we, opened up a website. We had help from a sponsor of ours, Clever Method, who stepped up and, created that for us. And from there, we had applications online, and we interviewed people. We had no idea, who they were. We interviewed them in person, online, did background and, checks on people to make sure that they were the right people to be part of this event. Mm-hmm. It's quite a feat to be a part of it. And we found the perfect 40 to do it. And
like other events in Buffalo and Western New York, this community rallies as well, if not better than any other. Mm-hmm. Would you agree? So it really, kind of took off, right? And grew. So you had to alter things. And I know the community shift was sort of a big part of that. Take us through the progression of it and how it sort of grew and became what it is today.
So when we had this idea, we didn't have a name, we didn't have a brand. So we partnered up with our amazing partners, Crawley Webb, and sat down with them. And, how do we create something that the community can be involved with? And the world record game was successful. We knew when it completed, and we raised over $1.2 million at the time. We couldn't stop. Buffalo embraced it. And why not have more players in our community? We know there's so many of them. Mm-hmm. Be a part of it. So instead of the 40 players rotating in and out of an 11-day game, we opened it up to 2 new teams every 4 hours. And we filled that event, surprisingly, from a couple advertisements on WGR. And our website kind of went crazy, and we had enough teams to put on an 11-day event in 2018.
So, that's a good illustration, right? When you talk about harnessing the passion for hockey and Roswell Park, making this a better community and cancer research. You kind of tapped into all of that, and look at how quickly it grew. Amounting to what, 13 million, I think, total?
Yes.
With you raised money for more than Roswell Park, but I think it's 8 million to Roswell directly, right? Take us through that.
So, our priority from the very get-go was to end cancer once and for all. How do we, give patients resources to get them to the point of survival? That was our number one important element of what we were doing, focus. And, we've been able to raise significant funds for cancer research, but we've also been able to raise money for wellness programs, which, as a cancer survivor myself and being friends in our community with many families affected, the entire family is affected. So we not only support research, we support families through their treatment through Camp Good Days, Make-A-Wish, and Oshai Children's Hospital.
Okay, good. And your involvement here at Roswell, I mean, the 11-day power play, like I said, it's kind of household, that term now. You ask people around the community, they at least have a sense of what it is. So you've made a tremendous, inroads in a relatively short period of time since this all started in 2017. I know that includes, I want to ask you about two things, the Team Science Award and your involvement with the Resource Center.
So going back after my treatment, I fell in love with Roswell. I felt, at home here. I'd walk through the halls saying, gosh, I wish I could work here someday. I applied for a job in the Resource Center here at Roswell. I was a medical social worker prior, and saw what we had at that time resource-wise, and had come up through cancer treatment with my family, and there was needs that I knew we needed to improve upon. And when Roswell approached us about the Cancer Resource Center and that they had some resources to get this off the ground, but they needed help, the 11-day power play, immediately our board jumped on board with that, because we know how important it is to support patients, to give them the tools, the resources, the hope through that center. So the 11-day power play resource center, I believe, was open in 2021, and we get messages all day, often from patients that are benefiting from that resource center, and I know our players and our volunteers are very proud of that.
You had mentioned your own journey and was so much of the inspiration for this event and fueled its growth and all of that. For the story there, we have to go back to 2009? Mm-hmm. And you've been so open about sharing this. Take us back. When were you diagnosed? Take us through that, and because again, your journey illustrates the power of events like the 11-day power play, like the Ride for Roswell, like the Empire State Ride, in terms of those dollars and how they can make such a critical difference.
Mm-hmm. So at the age of 35, very unexpectedly, I had found a lump on one of my breasts, and reached out to friends who knew people at Roswell and got in very quickly. And it was cancer, and it was an aggressive form of cancer at the time. And prior to 2009, my standard treatment was different. There was not immunotherapy available with my type of cancer. So my survival rate that I would see in literature from the year before was not good. And that was very scary. I had 3 young, small children. And I'm like, my survival rate's like 35%. Like, how is that going to be? I need to see my kids grow up in this world. So, I just continued to trust Roswell. And when I met with my oncologist here for the first time, he said, you're one of the first breast cancers that's had immunotherapy as a part of your standard treatment. So you will have chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and that immunotherapy will continue on after your cancer treatment. And I'm convinced today that I'm here because of that treatment.
This was part of a clinical trial, right?
There was also a clinical trial. No, at that time, the Herceptin, the immunotherapy for that was part of standard treatment, but only new from the year prior. And then I was, talking to my doctors here, and they said, breast cancer will often, go to certain parts of the body. And one of the ways that, we can prevent that is through bone strengthening drugs. Would you want to be part of a clinical trial that involved that? And, at 35, knowing that I'm already going through so much with, chemotherapy going through my body, did I want to risk something else? Yeah, I did. I wanted to see my kids grow. So I jumped on a clinical trial here, and I'm also convinced that has helped me, be here today. Amazing.
You said, I want to ask you about your experience beyond just the nature of the treatment, because you said you fell in love with this place. Describe that for me.
Well, I've worked in healthcare my whole life, and I've taken care of patients. And coming to Roswell, being scared, not knowing if I was going to make it through this, I couldn't believe the staff that was available to me. I couldn't believe the care. When I was told, that my tumor was what it was by a doctor, there were tears in her eyes. And I was like, wow, like people are human, even in chaos and in a stressful job, they're able to be empathetic and understand how emotional and scary cancer can be. So, it sounds cliche, but it's my home, and we've continued to support it, our family, our friends, our neighbors, through the 11-day power play.
So many people that I've talked to, and I'm sure you as well, when you talk about Roswell Park, and whether they've been diagnosed somewhere else, whatever the scenario is, when they enter the building, the attitude, the sense of hope, just that vibe, it's almost universal when I talk to people who have been treated here. Did you experience that sort of as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know that it's scary walking into a cancer hospital to most people. It was for me. But, now looking back, it's like, wow. I mean, you've got beautiful things to look at. Kaminsky Park is just incredible. That's where I ate my lunch every day when I would be here for my treatments. And, it's uplifting. There's always music. There's always something going on. And there's always staff who will literally walk up to you and say, do you know where you're going? Do you need any help? And, that's culture here that, starts from the top down. And being an employee here at one time, and also being a cancer patient, I've seen that with my own eyes.
And so now I think that gives kind of a deeper sense of the inspiration behind the 11-day power play. It's grown into, how many skaters do you have now?
So we had over 2,800 skaters this year, and we've had to adjust our schedule. We had some teams on the waiting list last year. We did the best we could to accommodate as many as we could, and we have plans to bring in a few more teams this year. It's amazing, how many people are, tragically touched by cancer. And how many calls we get. We've seen your event. We never knew that cancer was going to hit us the way it did this year. We want to be a part of it. So it's grown because it's an outlet for people, to remember, honor a loved one, to support a loved one, but also to give back in a way that they may not have had, an idea of how they could give back. And look at how many people play hockey in Buffalo. And we've got kids, age 11, you have to be 11 years old to participate. We did that because it's a strenuous event. And, we have teams that, we're 11, we're applying this year. Very excited to be a part of it. We have men, women, children, all ages. Our oldest team, I think our oldest player is 86 years old.
Wow.
So, anybody can participate, and if they can't play hockey, like myself, you can be a part of it by volunteering or just being, in the stands and cheering on the players who work so hard all year long, fundraising, and then getting on the ice and playing a very long shift.
All right, you go back to maybe 2017 with the 11-day power play, founding it then. It's grown into this amazing, impactful, successful event. You've met so many people, experienced so much. Do you have like a favorite memory or a really significant memory, something that really sticks with you?
Overall, I mean, there's so many incredible memories. It's been a lot of years with the 11-day power play. I will say that the most, what stands out in my mind is meeting a father and a daughter. The daughter came to Buffalo to participate this past year in the 11-day power play, and I ran into them in the hotel next door, and the father was beaming, just super proud. And I kind of said, hey, where are you guys from? And they're like, well, we're from North Carolina. We drove all the way up to play in the 11-day power play.
Wow.
And I said, wow, like what brought you to Buffalo? And he said, she's playing for me.
Oh.
And, just how proud he was of her, and to see them come together for something so special, and, to find out that, he's been through a lot, and, I continue to pray for him. So.
And having been through that journey yourself, that had to hit home.
Yeah, because family is there for you, and that was a clear situation that, her support of him meant so much, and through the sport of hockey, and came all the way to Buffalo to be a part of something, that meant a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to our players and our event.
So we turn back the clock. It's 2017. You had been through your own cancer journey. You're a survivor. You have the idea for this world record game. So many challenges in putting together an event like that, but there was this unexpected success that came with it in the form of, surpassing $1 million. Take us through the process of sort of founding it and what it meant to you to hit that milestone so early.
Yeah, so, in 2016, when we decided to do this thing, our family was completely behind it, at the time. The kids, their dad, myself, we're doing this no matter what. And, to see it, to meet with Roswell and to talk with them about our plans. And we thought at the time a goal of 500,000 was lofty, but we might even do better than that. And, we were told, just don't be disappointed if you don't get to your $500,000. And then the day we opened up our campaign, we put $1 million out there on our campaign, that was our goal. And we fought hard for that. Our group, our sponsorship group, our players, they were like, we have to get to that goal. And, we were able to exceed $1 million in 2017, and with an initial goal of 500. So that, to me, just shows, dedication, determination. Getting a small group of people that are, 100% into something could really, get us to something that we thought unachievable.
Given what you and your family had been through, what did it mean to stand there and hold that check with that amount, with that number?
Being able to support other patients and give them, provide funds for future research that might save somebody's life is pretty emotional. Yeah. I knew that I was, blessed to have received standard treatment that was up and coming, clinical, a clinical trial as well. Not everybody has that opportunity, and we were bent on making sure that we provided that for other people. So that event, when that ended, was very emotional for the players, for the staff, for the volunteers, and knowing that we were able to give some hope, and maybe even a little bit of a distraction to watch us venture into a Guinness World Record game without ever doing it before, and really not knowing what we were doing. I mean, we got through that safely, and just kept going.
You had a sense, I'm sure, that you might be onto something.
I knew we couldn't stop. I knew Buffalo wasn't going to let us stop.
Yeah.
We had a lot of participants that kept asking, what are we doing next? We can't do a world record every year. I mean, that's 40 people. Now we have 2,800 people participating. The more people you can get involved in the fight, the better. We all know that. So, we're not stopping.
Every big event faces its challenges. And so many of us, in our own way, all of us, face challenges during COVID. 2020, you guys somehow found a way to make this thing go. What was that like? Take me through that process.
It was a time of such uncertainty in our community, and cancer still happened and was happening during that time, and we knew we needed to continue to support the best we could. And our players every day, we're playing, right? We're doing this, right? Well, we didn't know each week, each month, leading towards the event if we were going to have it. So, we reached a point where we started to meet with, Erie County legislators and, how do we have this event safely? And it was Zoom after Zoom after Zoom of planning a safety plan and how do we keep our participants safe. And we moved the event outside to street hockey. And I have to say, hockey players typically don't play street hockey, and I never knew that. There wasn't a lot of it, yes, let's do that. But it was, of course, we're going to do that. I can't believe I'm playing street hockey. And we were still able to have 1,100 players play outside at Riverworks and raise over $1.1 million during COVID. And I found out that we were the only large event that actually happened in the summer of 2020. And that's dedication from, our players and our volunteers. And it was challenging. We could only have 50 people on site at a time. We could only have 5 staff. Teams needed to come in and leave, right away so that the next group could come. And, nobody could be in the locker rooms. They had to get dressed in their cars.
Wow.
It was, a very nerve-wracking time, but we got through that event without any issues at all. And, very proud to say that our players and volunteers were able to successfully raise over $1.1 million.
Did you ever envision this amount of success or this event becoming what it has?
I can't say reaching the astonishing number of $13 million is something that I never thought would happen. I knew Buffalo was an incredible city, and, our partners who have supported us, it always just felt right to keep going. And that was because we had so much support from our community. So does it surprise me where we are? Yes, but also it's Buffalo. So
Right. What would be your message to anyone who has been impacted by cancer, or a family member, a loved one, thinking about fundraising, has an idea maybe for their own event? Could you share any insight or inspiration with them?
So to think outside the box can sometimes be a little scary, to take on something that, is not familiar to you. I will say Roswell, when we approached them in 2016 to plan a world record game, completely embraced our idea and supported us. And anyone in the community that wants to be a part of a Team Roswell event or create their own, they have the resources here to help you. And they were instrumental in, giving us support, and we've continued to be partners since. And, it's, go for it. I feel like it was scary for us. We had 3 young kids and decided to do something a little outside the box, and here we are.
So much success through the years. Congratulations on all of that. And before we bring this particular program to a close, I would have to ask you about this. What does the future hold for the 11-day power play?
So the future of the 11-day, it's important for us as a family to continue this legacy. I said it several times today, we're not stopping. Obviously, we're on this earth for a limited time, and our kids are 100% involved in our event. And our middle child is now a current board member who lives and breathes the 11-day as well. So we're excited to have her be a part of that. That's Julia. And then my son plays college hockey and brings home his college teammates every year to participate. So it's truly a family that is supported by so many great friends and family that make our event and our organization what it is.
You had said that Julia, I think, was 5 years old when you were diagnosed?
Yeah. And Julia thought I had a cold, which when we talk about it, Mom, we just thought you had a cold. I'm like, oh, a cold, but, bald, And she's like, yeah, we thought that was a little weird, but, So yeah, my kids, obviously were young and didn't quite know what cancer was. And now seeing what I went through and looking back at photos, and meeting people that are battling every day. That's what we do. We are around people who battle every single day, and they want to continue to support it, and they will.
And so, having had that experience and that sort of family, personal inspiration in that sense, inspired by you and what Roswell did for you in saving your life, we get the sense that the event will be in good hands.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. She won't. She's a tough one. She'll make sure we pull through for a long, long time.
All right, Amy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it so much. And thank you for joining us to End Cancer.